Voice Note 1. Bitcoin syncs consciousness with true time.
I was trying to explain the Bitcoin effect on consciousness, the sort of sinking, awaken, where you sync the mind for the true timeline, for the true reality. But you first must have an understanding of Bitcoin, game theory, and its effects on the world, so that you could, right now where, the only timeline that happened was the nation state sort of adoption. And to us, it's looking plausible, okay? But it's not information that's gonna shake up your consciousness, okay? Now, to someone in 2009, 2010, to tell them that this could be a possibility would have sounded crazy, okay? But think about how you could potentially wake them up to say that it's not a potential or possibility. You are literally on that timeline. If you understand Bitcoin as a technology and the effect that it will have, it's not a possibility. You wake someone up by saying you are on that timeline. If you understand Bitcoin, then you know Bitcoin can create that timeline, can have that effect. You understand the technology, then you understand the game theory aspect. And you say to them, look, you're on that timeline. But it takes a level of understanding. To someone in 2010, when Bitcoin has just come about, you think the network's gonna fail, or there's gonna be some bug or something like that. You're living in the world of possibilities and potentials. And it's like you're showing them, for once, almost certainty as to the future. No more the future of possibilities, but to scream that you are on this timeline. And we literally were on that timeline. It is 2024, but think about how obscure the future is for someone in 2010. It's a world of potentials of what could happen. But to sync up the mind and say, it's not a world of potentials, you're literally on that timeline. The mind sees the world very differently. Now, for us, it would require in this day and age for you to tell someone something even more surreal regarding Bitcoin. Because right now we're in the realm of possibilities. We're in the realm of doubt and potentials. And there's so many ways in which the future could head. But it's for you to wake up in this present moment and to realize that you are on that timeline, whatever surrealness that a person tells you. But again, they will need to understand Bitcoin, the technology, its effect, the game theory, as to the potential that it could have on the world. But when you understand Bitcoin that well, it's not really potential. You're saying, look, the players can only make these and that moves, and it will have this and that effect. And it's to say, forget about the possibilities of the future. You are on that timeline now. That wakes a person up to say, you are on that timeline now. There cannot be another timeline. For a person in 2010, hey, 14 years later, they're going to be older, but they're going to be living in the timeline. Well, they're going to be, they did. That was the only thing. We're all presently here at the moment. That's the only thing that happened. The only thing that could have happened. Okay, so in order to do this again, you can tell someone, you can understand Bitcoin to a level, and we can go 10 years again into the future, or just any point in our timeline, in our potential timeline. And when you have an understanding of Bitcoin, you can make that prediction. You can give them a picture of the future as to the effect that Bitcoin will have. And again, it will sound surreal, but the person has a awakening. They have a sinking with the reality. Their consciousness has a sinking with the reality around them when they realize that they are on that timeline. It's not a case of potentials. It's like the timeline is going to happen, and Bitcoin is such a powerful technology to organize a reality. To organize a reality. Right now, we have people in their own individual lives who the Matrix has given them a false picture of the future. It's telling you that everything's fine. You're going to go get a degree, then a mortgage, and then that's going to get you the house. And their mind is synced for a false picture of the future. But the timeline that they are likely on, the timeline that came about, the timeline that could have been shown to them is the truth, the intention of the system, to impoverish them. Okay, but their minds were synced for something else. They didn't. Their consciousness wasn't synced for the reality. Okay, so that they were there looking at the potentials. Their mind was not in this realm. Okay, you're hoping for the degree, the job, the mortgage, the family, etc. And that is really a person who's in la la land. They're hoping on fantasy. But what is the timeline that truly came about? Okay, so again, a person can go even deeper into this and understand the timeline effect of Bitcoin on their own individual lives, where people right now were saying, hey, you buy Bitcoin now is the smartest thing to do, and it will have a positive effect on your life 4 to 8 years later. And right now we live in the realm of possibilities, and that is obscured from them. But really and truly, if they do the work, if they put in the study and time, if they acquire the Bitcoins, what other timeline can they end up in? And they would have experienced their first sinking of action and how it creates the future. Action in the present have an effect on your future. And you look back at the world of potentials. It's a very different way of navigating this realm when you think about comparing that to someone telling you, do this degree, get this degree, you're going to get this job, you're going to get the mortgage, you're going to get the house. That's they cannot guarantee that for themselves. Okay, that is the realm of potentials. That's a mind synced for a different reality, potential reality. That we have Bitcoin here, and we're saying someone in 2010 can say, hey, this is going to force nation states to buy, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about the future as if it's certain. But once you understand Bitcoin, it's like all players can only make certain decisions. Okay, so for you to have your 4-year experience in Bitcoin, your brain is truly synced for an outcome, and it creates a timeline for yourself. And you see that the value production from understanding reality, not being in the fantasy realm of it's all going to work out because you're doing what the fiat system says. That's not the reality that's coming about. That's not the timeline that is coming about. So Bitcoin can have a very positive effect on your mind when people are saying, hey, this is going to benefit your life. It sounds so surreal. It's like telling someone in 2010 that there's going to be nation states buying. But for some people, it's like that. It's like it's their heads in the matrix fiat world as to what will work out for them. They're listening to what the fiat system says to do. But when you come and tell them, hey, Bitcoin is heading in this direction, it's forcing, we understand the protocol, we understand the technology, we understand. Well, I don't even want to say it like that, because to a person listening, it just sounds like buzzwords, the technology, like what is it? Explain it. Okay, but we understand the protocol, and it's very simple. It's very simple. That's why it's complex and simple at the same time. Yeah, it's complex in how it works, but it's simple in how humans are going to interact with it. Okay, so where, a person can say, hey, your life's going to be better, and everyone is doubtful. But what timeline can come about when Bitcoin is at all-time high? You've bought it, you've listened to people, and now you're truly synced. You're truly synced. You had the thought in the past, you did the action, and now you see the outcome. And you've, for once, navigated the seas of reality instead of constantly being in the fiat system, hoping, waiting, and not understanding why things are not aligning. Okay, so this Bitcoin thing is better for the mind. It's like someone doing exercise, or someone hoping to get skinny, but they're not doing the exercise, they're not doing the action. They're just hoping or believing what the fiat system says, that, obesity has nothing to do with what you're eating and the activity you're doing. They want you to believe whatever is disconnected from reality. Obviously, there's other factors that go into obesity, but it can just be a simple energy in, energy out, activity done, activity not done. And you're going to be a much healthier and happier human being if you're in a state where your form, your body, your shape is a reflection of that. Just the simple actions and the food that you eat. If your body's at a state where it's dysfunctional for whatever reason, again, for most people, it's likely the food that they're eating with all disrupting their hormones, all these different chemicals. If you get into that state, you're really in the fiat realm. That is a production of the fiat realm. That is a production of a disconnect from reality, okay? That's just the fiat system, being able to gaslight you to say that you're doing something wrong. Okay, it doesn't produce healthy humans. You've become disconnected from reality, really and truly. Okay, so Bitcoin will have that positive effect upon the mind, upon your finances. When, again, we're telling people that their life will be better if they allocate to Bitcoins, they become, jump on a fiat standard. And the truth is that doesn't sound real to them. That doesn't sound real to them, but they need to end up on their own timeline, their own Bitcoin journey. We're all on the Bitcoin timeline right now. We're all in the Bitcoin reality, but they need to have their own sinking of actions in the past, resulting in their soon-to-be present in the future, where they finally touched grass or touched base reality. That's what Bitcoin is. It's like having the base metal. We're in the world of fiat paper and in the world of digital numbers. By exchanging your digital numbers or your paper for metal, it's the base reality. We cannot, we finally value check those certificates, or we finally value check those numbers. You come back to sanity, especially if you're living in a world where the numbers are completely disconnected from reality. The certificates are meant to be able to be backed one for one by the gold. If you live in a world where there's more certificates than gold, then there's misinformation within the system, okay? Because there's more supposed value that is being created. There's more claims on value. Someone's just printing paper and saying it has value. It's false information, okay? So you can only end up in the land of insanity. And then once you touch base with the metal, you return back to sanity. And that's what Bitcoin is, the technology that's doing. You come back to sanity. You leave the fiat fantasy realm, propaganda, wherever it's taking people's minds, allowing them to become disconnected. You touch base with the metal. You touch base with reality. We can verify the true value of all these digital units. The last trading price of Bitcoin, it tells us the value of these units. It tells us the true circulating supply. If there's more units in circulation than is known, Bitcoin will reveal that. In a global market, Bitcoin will reveal that a lot more people have these units, these fiat units, than was known. As you can see in the Bitcoin/fiat exchange rate. It's not a case of there being right now there's forces in place to prevent the movement of capital, but everyone can't have 10 million in their account and think that they're rich. The system can do what it does so that you can only interact with certain products and certain instruments that keep the flow of capital in its realm. But you can't have everyone think that they're rich. You need the flow of capital to really prove, if everyone's got 10 million, everyone can buy 10 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin. We're going to see the value of all this. But when your money is sitting in controlled accounts, or the most that you do with it is give it to a fund and they're, interacting with assets that always go up, we cannot see the true value and price of this capital because it's not interacting with reality. Bitcoin is really that thing, that base instrument that was as good as gold. All these numbers cannot interact with gold. All this digital wealth, these fiat dollars, they cannot leave the system and interact with gold because then, the price of gold would just go up. I say this before, how can the market cap of gold be 19 trillion and there's like 400 trillion in wealth that's on this layer? This digital layer of fiat numbers, bonds, etc., and the different instruments that they have. If you wanted to realize your wealth, this is really a casino. If you wanted to realize your wealth, right now, the US empire, the one that issues those instruments, people are very happy to stay there. This is where all the velocity is. This is where all the investment happens. This is where, you can preserve your wealth. Just like we choose Bitcoin, people are choosing these instruments, the dollar, in its digital form because it's part of a network that allows them to trade, it allows them to secure their wealth. But if you wanted to depart from that casino, you would ideally want to touch base and secure your wealth in the metal, gold. Okay, but 400 trillion in digital wealth, all trying to get an allocation of gold. It's just the same with Bitcoin. You know what I mean? It just sends the price of gold up exponentially. And it leaves those who are late to leave the fiat casino with a smaller portion of the gold supply or the Bitcoin supply. I believe Bitcoin exists because they don't really want people to leave the digital realm. They don't want all that money going for gold, because then it's like you have to then set up a new system upon which you're gonna, whatever their attempts are to be AI powers, digital surveillance, digital power, wherever it is, they still want everyone in the digital world. So all that potential energy, 400 trillion in wealth that wants to secure itself and de-risk from the US empire, be it that we have other global powers, the Middle East, China, who could really gain, supremacy in terms of power, in terms of AI, in terms of strategic oil reserves and linking up together. They could just issue their own currency based on that. That's what the US done. The dollar is fiction. The dollar is just fiction, backed by war, backed by power, backed by opinions and political votes. But it's a network that has issued its own currency. And when there's that threat of losing share, you de-risk by just, of all that digital wealth in its abstract form, dollars, bonds, you can secure it just like exiting the casino into gold. You can still remain within the digital realm and have access to, this is why Bitcoin's better than gold, but you can still have access to that digital realm because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who wins. China, Russia, Middle East, they will still try to express and abstractly represent their wealth in a digital way, in a communications sort of way. That's what, benefiting from the properties of information. Money is just information. Money is now information. Okay, but yes, something like Bitcoin will always exist because it's that technological leap up. Think about what you need to do to beat Bitcoin. You need energetic dominance. Okay, you need, so that, again, that's an insurance in case someone creates nuclear or fusion. At the end of the day, Bitcoin absorbs it all. In case someone has SHA-256 backdoor, they're able to break that. It's unlikely that they will. But if it is the case that the Americans already have a backdoor, then it's just Bitcoin is there just to monitor everyone else. Things like quantum. If someone does have quantum supremacy, then we'll see that. We'll see that with Bitcoin. Really and truly, it will make more sense to not reveal and blow up the fiat system, hack every password, allow for still all that money there and just secure it with Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin will go quantum resistant and then your wealth is secured. Where's my paper? So what else? What's this there? Any sort of economic innovation upon which there's a global demand for imports from another country, or they have something that everyone needs that they can export, that allows their currency to be stronger, that allows them, if their people are getting away from the dollar, if you need to get the BRICS currency in order to buy this export, that's global power for them. If they have a booming economy, their monetary unit is strong, again, the value of that can only go to Bitcoin if we still exist within a Bitcoin world. If people can issue more of their imaginary monies and it's backed by their economies because there's a demand for what they have, they can expand their money supply, and it's kind of maintains its value because you need it to buy what they have. That's going to be represented in the strength of their currency. They can use that to buy Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin is that net over all different. I think I'm missing one area. It was like energy, information. It's really that too. But Bitcoin is you really need to surpass a level. You need to be like a type 1 civilization to even get above Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is the net that will capture all value as we are still in this kind of primitive state. Especially when you speak about what is needed in terms of quantum power to even break Bitcoin now. SHA-256, encryption, the proof of work, getting 50% of the hash rate. It's like you need to be a level ahead, and Bitcoin is the identifier, because we'll see the hash rate, we'll see who's winning blocks, we'll see who's buying coins. It just allows you to just keep that measurement. You know what I mean? If someone discovered fusion, they can generate exponentially more energy. We'll see it. We'll see it in the network hash rate of Bitcoin. How could you really benefit and express that power? Because if you can gain dominance over the network, then you can constrain others and say, we're just not mining your blocks, or we're not mining any of your transactions. You can just create problems in the world. Well, there's a lot of things that can happen. But again, you de-risk into Bitcoin because it just captures all value that can ever be generated here on this planet. And it doesn't really allow, it doesn't require you to depend on any empire. That's just how I see it anyway.
Voice note 2. Fiat is video game money.
Yeah, so fiat is just video game money. Okay. It's money that really could have just been in a video game, like on a computer. With fiat, they don't really want it to interact with reality. When you have a digital number, for example, bank balance, you can really test the value of that number by having it interact with reality. I.e., you go to the bank and you say, can I withdraw my cash? And then you value check that number, that value, that unit with its existence in reality. Okay, they are required, the existence of their digital number is constrained by the requirement for it to exist within reality. So you can see how once you disconnect that, 1971, once you disconnect the existence of your number or unit from a constraint, a reality-based constraint, your unit, its value can be disconnected from this realm, this reality. Okay, because there's no value check to it. It's disconnected from our reality. Okay, so with the fiat system, being that it really is a counter system, people say like the stock market is disconnected from reality. It's really just a video game. It's the numbers, the units, they don't, with $400 trillion of wealth that exists in this abstract form, dollars, bonds, treasuries, they don't want that number, that unit, those values to interact with reality. When we have 19 or 18 trillion in gold, that 400 trillion obviously represents the wealth for the world. And that can obviously, a small portion of that can technically absorb the entire gold supply. If you wanted to secure your wealth, once you understand the layers of the system and the layers of how we've gotten to all these numbers, you'll see that it's built on top of gold. It's like we're in a casino. People have stayed upon this layer because it is a casino, and this is where all the velocity is. This is where all the defense of wealth is. Check, for example, Apple priced in gold. It's like, yes, gold may be money, gold may be base value for reality, but there was growth in this video game economy. Apple stock outpaced gold. Okay, so there was reasons to stay in this credit-based system. But with 400 trillion in wealth, they don't want it to be value checked because reality is real. And that 400 trillion, if it is to be, if people want to secure their wealth and they go back towards gold and exit the credit layered system or the fiat video game system, the value of gold obviously needs to go up. The value of gold obviously needs to go up a lot to satisfy the available claims. But again, that essentially reprices the value of the dollar. Okay, allowing it to interact with reality will value check it, will show us the true value of the dollar. And that is what they are attempting to prevent. So the dollar, to me, is just video game money. And they've made many attempts to disconnect its connection and ability to interact with reality. People have money in their accounts and they're happy to lock it up and get interest, a yield. They're just getting a salary to see a number on a screen. Their numbers are all held with financial planners, advisors. They give it to index fund managers who do not direct it towards reality, but instead direct it to the video games products, financial instruments, stocks, bonds, yields that can absorb an infinite amount of these numbers, which just continue to go up. I even feel like houses, the money is not really interacting with the house. The money is interacting with the house price, which is controlled by the video game. You know, a house could have been £500, $500. It's now 500,000. Really and truly, you're not richer. You know, the game just controls the numbers to absorb the supply. You know, the values increase, but you're not richer. The money, again, could claim, the money has power to claim what is scarce. Okay, but in claiming what is scarce will show you the true value of the money. So you must disconnect it from base reality, base value. That's all I can say. The money is a video game. I think once you see that, you'll realize Bitcoin itself will reprice everything. Yeah, it's literally money that can interact with reality. It can store its true value and interact with reality by repricing everything to its true value. Yeah, so that it really is universal money. It's not like the dollar, which I don't know. We cannot, you know, how much of that 400 trillion, how much can it get in Bitcoin? It will be repriced. It will reprice the dollar, but Bitcoin will hold true value. Do you understand? And it will reprice everything. If a car is 120 sats, it's 120 sats for a car. It's simple. It's simple, and you're gonna know what your hourly wage should be. You'll know the value of your time. Bitcoin will just reprice everything to its true value, and we don't need to have the system locking up your money in pensions, and you've just got all these numbers on the screen, and they only allow the numbers to interact with digital products that they create, that they just have the number going up so you think you're getting richer, but it's just an illusion. It's just a video game. The numbers in this video game cannot interact with reality because they're not even connected to reality. They've become, once 1971 happened, it just became disconnected. And you can expand the money supply. What does the numbers mean? This is why I think about Ethereum. What do the numbers mean? It's its own video game monetary system. ETH is just its own monetary video game. I mean, it's its own video game monetary system. The numbers are not connected to our economy, our ecosystem, our reality. Thanks to proof of work, Bitcoin can only be connected to our economy. You know what I mean? I always say, it's like the cost of a Bitcoin, the energy that went into creating it is governed by the cost of energy, reality. It will always be tied to our economy and our value of money, and the cost that goes into producing energy. It is kind of governed by time as well. We will give a price to time. We'll give a price to the production of energy so that it is efficient, so that it is profitable, so that you're not depleting it or selling energy for less than you should, and we're having these depletions in our scarce resource. So, our pricing system carefully manages resources through time. Okay, that's what I gotta say. We have so much mispricing in the system. I'm gonna end it there.
Voice note 3, Bitcoin versus the elite, modesty versus the 0.01%.
With the fiat empire comes the illusion, the fantasy of wealth. Okay? When you have the Bitcoin standard, the Bitcoin philosophy, that spell should effectively have broke. That's how those who benefit from this fiat system, that's how they keep you in the game, continuously lusting over their wealth. Now, be it that so much of the supply is within the hands of individuals who may not be the 1%, the upper elite, it really puts them in a position of being outpriced, being demonetized, having their magic not work. Be it that they cannot become the 1% of this new supply, of this new monetary magic called Bitcoin. So for you as an individual, the best thing you can do is live a humble life, live a modest life, do exactly as they would have wanted you to do. They wanted you to eat bugs, really and truly. That is the ideology of the wealth of the wealthy elite of this system. You know what I mean? Even though it's not actually like a real person, but it's a collective idea of how this system will work or how it was going to work in regards to their wealth and where it was heading. So really and truly, you really just got to live that life. And in doing so, you keep the majority of your Bitcoin out of their hands, okay? But that requires the spell of their wealth and their money and that fantasy to be broken. If you are one of these individuals who your Bitcoin is worth 10 million, what I've said is that you need to continue to live modestly, add value to your local community, add value to your local economy, export your ideas globally, export your services globally, but live modest, okay? That is what keeps your Bitcoin out of their hands. If you're looking at your Bitcoin at its fiat worth, the fantasy is what that fiat value can get you. That can only be found within the fiat system. To live as a $10 million rich person or 100, that's part of the program. That's part of the fantasy. That's part of the propaganda that has been sold to you. Yeah, and I'm telling you, the moment you give up your position, your Bitcoin position, for this fantasy of wealth, and they are able to access that supply, that fantasy will break. Their system sustains that fantasy, okay? The moment you give up your position for that fiat supply and they get the Bitcoin, they will initiate a Bitcoin standard the next day, okay? And Bitcoin will be the magic for what accesses the wealth, the fantasy. Do you understand? Those dollars will turn into dust. The moment that system is able to get the majority of the Bitcoin wealth, Bitcoin supply, and you're there holding, you've given up your position because your Bitcoins are worth 100 million, 10 million. If everyone does that, and that sort of system is able to access that wealth, they will immediately set up a Bitcoin standard. Yeah, that 1% who wanted you to eat bugs. Yeah, if we imagine these lot as characters, if wherever that is within the system, or wherever that is in the collective consciousness, if it is able to get the majority of the supply, and you, the average person, give it up, the average person who does not believe himself or herself to be this 1%, to be this wealthy elite, to be this superior above the masses, yeah, you're just an average person. So you need to look at your Bitcoin balance, and it will have a fiat number attributed to it. And if the old magic of the old world is still operating against your mind or within your mind, you're still going to be seeing that as the thing that will allow you to access that fantasy. You will have to give up your Bitcoin position and get those dollars. Otherwise, as I said, you live modestly, you produce value, you continue working, you continue working and produce value within your society, within your economy, within your community, okay? And you live modest, as they would have wanted you to do anyway, but they would have had you eating bugs and living in poverty. But you're going to continue to do those things. And yes, you can still sell Bitcoin, but you're just not exiting into the fancy, back into the fiat, you know what I mean, in total. Getting the 10 million, getting the 1 million, whatever number it is. You're just continuing to produce value to the people around you. And if you do need money, you sell bit by bit, because this is really a time-based game, a waiting game. There will be those who are richer than you who are playing this power game with Bitcoin, and they will be selling on mass to try and gain political power, to try and gain economic power within the system. And they will be threatened again. They also most likely are not exiting their entire positions, okay? But their Bitcoin is worth enough billions that they are trying to shake up the traditional world and threaten the super elite of that system, you know what I mean? But they still understand that this is a Bitcoin world, and their Bitcoins will be worth even more if they can make it the standard, okay? So you as an individual, you know, they wanted you to live modest, eat bugs, continue to live something like that. Obviously not eating the bugs thing, but you're not trying to achieve this level of wealth as defined by them in terms of fiat. You know what I mean? You're going to see the numbers as to how much your Bitcoins are worth, but you're not letting that fantasy you're not letting another man's magic capture your mind so that you're selling to access his definition of wealth. That's part of his system, the 10 million, whatever that means, 100 million. It's like live modest, still continue to produce value within your local community, within your life. You sell bit by bit if you do need money, just so that you're not living in complete poverty, just so you can keep the people around you. As we still exist in a world that is powered by fiat and priced in fiat, you know, keeping the people around you afloat, educating them, producing value to them. And the fact that the longer you can hold your Bitcoin position and holding the largest portion that you can hold, be it that the majority of Bitcoin is held by individuals, the more it's going to be worth. The worse it gets for them, the elites of the old system, be it that the market dynamics will continue to push the price up. The supply, we're at 94%, 95%. Soon we're going to be at 96%, 97%, and it's just like there's less and less that can go into their hands if they haven't bought it already. Okay, so it's a time-based game. You just need to push it out as long as you can. And by living modest and not, you know, that old magic shouldn't work on your mind anymore. What 10 million can get you has all just been sold to you by their TV, this idea of fantastical wealth and living as the wealthy elite, the mansions, the valet, the caviar. This is all just a man's fantasy that he sold to you via the screen. You wouldn't even known about it if you didn't know about Hollywood. You wouldn't have even known about it if you ain't seen the TV. Okay, but we've been staring at the TV, trying to escape our base realities, always imagining and fantasizing about something else. That's all we do, really and truly. And that's another man's magic over your mind. So you just need to not entertain any of that. So the whole Bitcoin thing is not you, because again, if you want to sit and do nothing and live off your Bitcoin, again, your Bitcoin balance is going to go down. So you still have to continue to produce value to the people around you, produce value to your local society, your local economy. You don't have to work and do something, you know, and slave and do something you don't want to do, that doesn't produce value to you or the people around you. So that kind of helps to bring some sense, because some people will say, oh, Bitcoin, what, all can't be rich, or they can't just be, you know, we're just going to end up in the same system where it's the same people who are going to be rich and there's going to be a large majority of people who are not. The good thing about Bitcoin is that it's attached to consciousness, hopefully conscious people, real people who will want to allocate value and produce value to the people around them and what's important. Right now, the fiat system, when you're just giving your money to a fund and they invest in an index and they invest in all these stocks, it's just unconscious money. It's just an unconscious entity that allocates capital on this planet. But I feel like Bitcoin is more conscious money.
Voice note 4. Borrowing against your Bitcoin. Are you for real?
So obviously, I start thinking very simply. I don't really look too much into the complexities of an idea at the start. But I like to use the simpleness first, just to establish some groundwork. Or just to establish the idea, should I say. Now, there's people that keep pushing this idea of you borrowing against your Bitcoin. So you're borrowing against your Bitcoin. Let me just think about this. You're borrowing against your Bitcoin to access the capital and have it represented in something else, another unit, let's just say dollars, so that you can do what? Let's say you're buying a house, you're buying this. It's like you're turning it into this other unit. You're still hoping that there's a system of labor, a system of energy that will do the work, that will create the products, that will get the services, wherever it is, that will power the services. You're still betting on that existing and being accessible by this unit that you're borrowing into. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're saying, I still hope that there's people still tied to the fiat system so that I can access their labor and energy. Okay? I would like to get rid of the bad money, or spend the bad money and keep the good. So you're spending the bad money by giving it to someone so that they carry out the work. So there still exists this realm where there are people who are still subject to give their time and energy to the fiat system and in exchange for this thing that you're borrowing into. I'm not getting it. You know what I mean? Maybe there are people, again, I used to say, Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, not buy a house. And I just kept it simple like that. And then there's people like Leon Wankum who, he explains that for some people, there's a strategy there in still remaining exposed to housing, but also implementing Bitcoin. Now, I wouldn't have seen that because I'm not involved in that. You know what I mean? I would have just said, hey, buy Bitcoin, forget about the houses. Because I don't actually understand the dynamics of that market. So, but for me right now, I just start off with, I'm able to finance a reality. I'm able to give the capital to create a reality. That's how I see it when you have Bitcoin. It's like you create the reality. Whoever had the gold created this reality on top, this financing, this credit. So for me, that's how I start. I just don't even entertain this idea of borrowing against my Bitcoin for what? Into what? So that you can access houses, this, like, what? How much stuff do people want to do beyond the limits of their human existence? Like, what can you do? What do you need money for? You want money to build a business. So you're loaning against your Bitcoin to access the credit markets, the financial markets, so that you can build your business, so that you can pay people in that money. And you're still hoping that you're still expecting that there's people who will give their time for that thing that you're borrowing into and not Bitcoin. That's just how I see it. Obviously, yeah, like I said, with the whole housing thing, with all these other markets, there's people who think deep into it. I think they're thinking too much. They're just, once you start talking about borrowing against your Bitcoin and the strategies, you're just thinking too much. You're entertaining an idea. Who keeps saying this, borrow against your Bitcoin, give it to the banks, give it to this, give it to whoever. To me, I saw all that with Celsius and BlockFi. It's just like, you don't understand what you have here, and you're still talking about giving it to the system so that they can, negotiate with it, and negotiating with you, saying you still need dollars, you still need this. I just buy your Bitcoin, keep it in self custody, and go live in the woods. Just go live your life. I don't know how many things you're trying to do, how much of a god you're trying to be over earth. You're trying to extend beyond the limits of your basic needs, your basic existence. How much money do you need? Really and truly. How much money do you need? Okay. But yeah, so everyone's gonna do what they need to do. I'm just speaking as a normal human being. Other people obviously have businesses, they have debts, they have things they want to achieve, but they're going to achieve those things, by still either being dependent upon human labor or AI labor, which really is still dependent upon human data. The human being is the pristine computational instrument, universal computational instrument, consciousness achieved. All AI is just seeking to be that, to be like that and better. Okay, so it's still dependent upon the magic that is the human creation. Anyway, yeah.
Voice note 5. Wizard of Ounce technology, Fiat is backed by fear and magic.
Yeah, so the value of the fiat money is it's a hybrid thing. It's both belief and dependence. For some people, the belief is the magic over their mind. It's captured their fantasy, is the instrument that will get them access to their greatest desires that they developed since first coming into this realm, into this reality. You know what I mean? They were the kids who either stared at the window, window shoppers, or the catalog kids. I was a catalog kid. When you just look at the catalog and you just see the pages of toys, of games, all the things you want to buy, and you just fantasize about having it all. For some kids, it's the car, the McLaren, the Porsche, Lambo. It's just that thing that is out of reach, from a whole different realm of reality, of wealth, that people can spend their times fantasizing about, that can really capture their mind. They see it on the TV screen, that the lives that they live, the reality that they're in is very modest, working class, some poverty, some poor. The screen is free. To fantasize is free. Okay, so that magic for me, the spell broke. I used to love money. Wait, let me find this tweet. Hold on. Okay, yeah, this is tweet from this crypto trader on Twitter, called John J. Brown, who used to see on the Bitfinex leaderboard in 2021, had a very big unrealized profit position on Bitcoin. I think he or they have changed their strategy for this market cycle. But yeah, anyway, but they normally post a lot of their tweets seem reflective, quite philosophical, poetic. But they said, anyway, March 19th, 2021, the simple purchase of candy with cash plays an incredible, powerful role in society. It is by this trade that every child learns the value of money. It hooks them for a lifetime. And that is it. But for me, I was going to explain that the spell had broken for me. I remember I started off this recording saying that it's both belief and dependence. So I'm establishing the belief side, the power over the mind, the magic. That spell had worked upon me. From where I'm from, it gets you what you want. It gets you access to your desires. Sugar, again, is that euphoric substance. For me, the scarcity of money in my own community and its ability to get me access to what I wanted, it's the magic over the minds for someone so young who has, the realm of possibility in their head. So I would steal money from my own parents, from, their wallet, their purse, because the spell of money was just that powerful over my mind. I was hoarding coins, pound coins. I'll collect coins, and I'll just feel so the hoarding spirit, the hoarding consciousness comes over you when you're building up this pile, this collection. You're not even wanting to spend it. You just feel like you're getting richer. You're collecting all this gold. But the spell of money kind of broke over time when
I was able to reflect on my behavior, that it was controlling me in this way. And two, that, the coins, the shiny gold coins, the pound coin, the £2 coin, these things, I was told, it's not even real gold. It's not even real silver. So I began to question its value, because I was aware of gold and silver, even though we just used to have those little cheap gold-plated jewelry and things like that. But when I'm seeing it has the same color, but it's not the same thing, you question, so why does it have value? You know what I mean? So it was from that point that the spell had kind of broke, where I'm sitting here looking at myself, lusting over these coins, thinking they have value, collecting them, and realizing that my efforts to acquire them is really going to waste. It's like you've woken out of the dream. You know what I mean? It's like they're telling you that think about the emotion that would capture you, or that would come over you if you have been told that you've won the lottery. You know them lottery pranks where they prank someone and say that they won a $250,000 scratch card, and it's like the emotion, the realm of possibility that exists within your head, and then the bubble just bursts when they say, oh, it was just fake. The disillusionment that occurs, it can no longer capture the spirit, but it's the idea, the belief, that is the most powerful thing, and ensuring that the spell doesn't break. Now, on the other side is the dependence, okay? This system is not dependent on euphoria and belief. A person who takes out a loan, a student loan, who is now in debt, who now must give their life force, their lifetime, their energy to paying off their debt. They power the system, they power the money on the other side of it. Okay, so this works as a system of domination. IMF loans, putting people into debt slavery. There's two forces that will power the system. It's not a case of always relying on belief. They will enforce it. They will create that dependence upon it. Fictitious money. In some African countries, for example, there's some countries that are using the old French currency, and the French don't even use it. The French can just print that out. You know what I mean? You're stuck in another person's realm trying to acquire their fake currency. That's all fiat currency is. It's just debt. Energy willed to the fiat system via debt, slavery, fear of violence, fear of jail. You have to pay tax. Your existence is taxed. So there's two sides to the system. The system is backed via force. On Bitcoin's side, we have proof of work. That's doing the final backing, just in case we, belief pops every 4 years with our market cycles. Okay, if Bitcoin was dependent upon belief, it would have died. It would have died after the first bubble pop. Okay, but there's that energetic backing of force, proof of work, that sustains the idea, that sustains the existence of Bitcoin. I'll leave that with you. I'll leave it there.
Voice note 6. One day you'll wake up, out of the dream. The perils of consumerism.
One day you'll wake up out of the dream. Especially when it comes to things like storing value. How can you take something with you? You're going to understand that in all these products you acquired, you engage in a trade in which you took the loss, whether you realize that or not. Now, I believe the end goal is to create a human being that buys literally air, is unable to determine value as it exists given to them by God. Completely disconnect them from that so that you can engage in a trade of a lifetime. You give them nothing and they give you everything. The human gives their time and their energy, what was most scarce. They have lost an instrument for determining, representing value, storing it. They've lost the concept of it. The digital realm, if we imagine a non-Bitcoin world, the digital realm, we have people buying skins that can be infinitely created. What an amazing trade that you even value those things. And that is where this sinister system that is against the human is really trying to take you to. It's trying to disconnect on every aspect, every part of your culture, every part of your society, any type of understanding of what is real and what true value is, so that we can create a human that is within a game where you give us God's energy that flows through you, time, energy, what is scarce, and you engage in the trade in which you are given nothing. You're given an illusion, a number that is disconnected from reality, and instead you give them everything. That is the greatest trade. And as you can see, from going from gold to certificates to digital fiat money, that is where it was heading. Okay, so I say that there will come a time where you wake up, where you reach the end of your life and you realize that all these things that you have was part of that trade. You cannot, you have nothing to really secure the value of any of this stuff. Its value doesn't exist. You cannot even take it with you. And that's the trick, or that's the magic of Bitcoin. It really is that thing where it's like, after a lifetime, you can dematerialize your value or what you've accrued, store it in something that translates across time, across empires. You don't depend upon the US, you don't depend upon them defending the dollar, you don't depend on China not suddenly become the superpower, you don't depend on World War III, knocking out the whole US or knocking out this side, or you're given some type of magic that can allow you to kind of take it with you. And really, if you wanted to, pass it on. You could pass it on to a relative. You could pass it on to the rest of humanity by just, by just burning your keys. You know what I mean? But there will come a time where you realize all of the stuff that you have was part of a trade. You did not benefit in that trade. None of these things can store value. That value now exists in whilst the fiat system still existed, it existed in fiat. It existed in the dollars that they have. It existed in their stock, in their instruments that store value. It existed in their assets that they owned. Okay? At this very point in time, most of these things around you in your house, it only has value due to wants. Think about sneakers. Think about Rolexes, Jordans, whatever. These things are low-class things that you, really and truly, that you would say, oh, it's only due to the culture at the time that you want the Jordans. Okay? There's no need. It's only a want. So the magic will fade. The brainwashing will fade. The fantasy given to you by the culture, the programming, it will fade. And you'll realize that you engage in all these products, all these things that you have. They don't store value. Whoever sold them to you, the businesses, trust me, they gained on that trade. And that value exists there in those instruments that they own. Okay, it's translating into Bitcoin. It's translating, but at least they have that decision. They have that decision to liquidate whatever instruments are no longer maintaining their value or storing value for them, and they'll translate into Bitcoin. But you have to realize you're in a false reality. You're surrounded. If you think these things around you, the items in your home, unless they have family sentimental value, they possess no value at all. These people do not engage in that type of trade. Like I said, the aim is to really hand you nothing. That's the final aim. That's why we're transitioning from the physical realm, physical products, physical things to consume, into digital, because it allows for the greatest trade to occur of all time. They hand you nothing. Imagine kids are buying skins. They grow up in that world. We can create as many skins as possible, and you're given money for it. That's the greatest trade. Okay, but all of these things, once you reach the end of your timeline or your line, and you reach that point of waking up, you will realize you would want to translate this value to your kids, to your offspring, etc. You would want to pass it on. You would want to kind of just make it ethereal. Just dematerialize it and turn it into value. But all these products you have to sell. It's not. I'm not even going to go too deep into it like that. But you realize that its value is not really there. There's so many things that could happen. But I hope you can see that, of reaching the end and saying you're even limited by time in terms of capturing the value of these things, I would argue that they never even had much value in the first place. Your mahogany table, it can just be materialized, 3D printed, really and truly, to another person at a later date. It's like a guy's want a table because they can't get one. Do you understand? And I don't think you buy a table as a store of value, but their value is subjective. But students just moving to a new home, they need a table. They can't materialize a table. So they have to go on Craigslist, Gumtree, try and find it. And they're directed to you. Trust me, we'll be in a world where these products will be able to be materialized. Seriously, it will get to that instant delivery stage if you think in terms of 3D printing. But you dematerializing any of these so-called assets and translating that value to your descendants, you'll realize you engage it in the worst trade. You have nothing really to pass down. You do not possess the power to just at the flick dematerialize this stuff and preserve that value. Time is really against you. As we advance into the future, time is against you. These things, really, there was a limit as to transporting products via time and space, and we're just gonna it's such a flipping of things, dematerializing stuff and dematerializing things that were hard to dematerialize and materializing things that were hard to you know what I'm trying to say. There will be things that will be flipped. But you coming to the end of your life, or the moment before the global awakening, you will realize that you cannot just at a flick take this stuff with you. And really taking it with you is really translating it to your kids, translating the value of all this stuff and being able to pass it on. Bitcoin gave humanity the ability to build upon what was previously built and have it be accessible. We were given a global humanitarian value preserving technology so that it can be passed on and it can be translated to our descendants, dematerializing the value of everything that's around you in the physical and representing it in a digital way that can be secured. And then at the speed of light, you can just transport it to anyone and also through time. Your products in your house will lose value over time as we head into this sudden, soon to be easy to materialize products and services future. As things become more abundant, as things become easier to produce and manufacture and can match the quality of your mahogany table. Suddenly people don't need that mahogany table because we have this easily manufacturable material that has a similar color, can be 3D printed and mass produced locally near you. Maybe people's opinion change, they just want a table. I'm just gonna leave that with you. But the awakening of the old world spell, it will be broken. It will be broken.
Voice Note 7. Declutter, de-materialize. Convert it into Bitcoin and translate that value for its existence within a different world.
I don't think people get that in the end, at the end of the line, you're gonna have a bunch of stuff that you'll be hoping to pass on, assuming you believe these physical things can have value and preserve value. Okay? And the truth is, it just won't be. I've even lost it. I've lost the thought. The thought captured me and I just lost it. But you're going to sit there and have all of these things to pass on, and you may attribute a value to them. And really and truly, if you're hoping to capture the value, you'll be hoping to dematerialize it. Dematerialize the physical products that you have and capture the value of them and represent it somehow. Or you will physically pass the items that you have onto your kids. This is why I say you should only keep the things that have family sentimental value or just some type of value in its physical form. But when I pose the threat of being able to materialize these things via newer technologies, make it abundant, that threat of the value that they possess that is constrained by their physical existence and the limitations of recreating those things in the physical reality due to the limits of technology at our current time. Oh my days, I'm saying the sentence so long that I'm forgetting how I'm going to end it. But the value that is within it will be lost. It's as simple as that. So you better hope that whatever you're passing down actually has value to your descendants in their physical form. Otherwise, they won't have any value at all. Okay, and you'll be here with a bunch of products, and what you'll be hoping to do is to dematerialize them and translate that into value so that you can pass it down to your descendants. Otherwise, you're just going to hand them a bunch of stuff that they now need to sell that probably ain't going to have the same value that you thought it did. Due to the limits of technology in our current time. That table that is scarce, mahogany, whatever it is, unless it's got something that is embedded within it that just simply couldn't be replicated. If it's quality can be replicated and surpassed. You would need something that just couldn't have been done by anyone, and that is deeply is embedded within the formation of that thing. But the rest of the stuff, it will lose its magic. And you'll see that you just got a bunch of products and items to pass on. So even you as a person, you need to start decluttering. Just declutter, because you won't get the value out of these things in the future that you can capture now. Yeah, dematerialize this stuff now, and you've been given a tool to capture the value of that stuff in Bitcoin. And by the time we reach that stage of, Bitcoin could go up and down, but by the time we reach that stage of all of the value proposition of all those physical items being threatened, Bitcoin will be considerably higher. Okay? Bitcoin will be considerably higher.
Voice Note 8. Dematerialization versus value storage.
It's such a multi-layered explanation, because what I'm saying is that someone has engaged in the greatest trade. They sold you all these products. They have a value at this point in time, but that value will be sent to zero as they establish the world of abundance. However, based on the trade that they have carried out now, in selling you this product, they have gained profit from it. And the value has been stored in, again, whatever they have. Fiat money, stocks, their share price, the assets that they have. And these likely still possess their monetary premium and their value premium right now. So they've engaged in this trade with you by selling you all these products, selling you all these things. They have gained just a little bit more. Okay, value is stored with them, and they can now make the decision to secure that with Bitcoin. And then at the same time, they can send the value of what they gave to you, sold to you, to zero, leaving you even more poor. Okay, so there's a hybrid world. Even if you forget about Bitcoin, the products that they've sold to you that have an element of physical scarcity, if there's a company that can create that abundance, the 3D printing, they still own the IP for most or the patents for most of these things that they're now going to be able to instantly deliver. So if whatever you was holding was once, it had its universal premium due to the limits of space and time, they're going to send the value of that to zero, and thus the trade was the greatest trade. In your lifetime, you gave money for this. You basically gave them money, you gave them a value storage instrument, and they gave you back nothing. Even though it's a table here, they're gonna be able to send the value of it to zero by being able to materialize and reduce the constraint of production in regards to tables, so that they're just abundant. So it was over time, but you really got sent to zero. How much more valuable could another product be that is made up of another material that could literally just be broken down and reprinted into another product, versus your fixed state table, which can only really be used as a table, and if needed to be recycled will be far too energy intensive. So yeah, it goes into what the future will potentially look like.
Voice Note 9. The importance of preservation technologies.
Notice how I can lose a thought. Humanity is always trying to preserve something. If I have understanding, it can easily be lost. A thought can be lost. Knowledge can be lost, and you have to do the work again to uncover it. Humanity is trying to preserve, store something in order to save and prevent work from having to be carried out again. You're conserving energy. What am I doing right now? I'm recording this. It's taking me time and energy to record what I understand into language first. Language. Okay, I can write this down. I'm solidifying the understanding into information storage medium, language, and then I can go further into writing. I can write something down, put it in a book, and I can understand it at a later date. I can also record, like I'm doing right now, into this recording device and listen to it at a later date. Now, in terms of rereading it, re-listening, that takes time. I can't even lie. I write a lot of stuff and then I look at it and say, oh my days. Now I need to read back through and find my specific information, how I outlined it, how I structured it. Again, we're trying to save time. If we can build upon what is written, build upon what is known, so that you don't have to access it, so that you can solidify your understanding into something that condenses what you know, what you have learned, into something that benefits you perpetually over a significant period of time, which is why I explained the concept of buildings or architecture that shows that you have that level of understanding that benefits you and can exist through time, and show that you benefited from that understanding, that you had or have that understanding, allowing you to save on work, on work having to be done in the future. It's a preservation technology. But yeah, it's the act of me writing something down, recording it. I'm saving myself time. I'm saving you time. But you can see how easily understanding can be lost, an idea can be lost if you do not preserve it. The value of it can be lost if you do not use these preservation tools. Write, think, then write, think, then speak, record, compile your knowledge and understanding into these preservation tools. I can open up a book, access someone else's ideas. I can read through all my writings. I have a lot of good ideas regarding Bitcoin. Sometimes I don't write them down, and then I have to wait until I can somehow stumble across that information again. Sometimes it is stored, but it's stored energetically. I have to feel the same emotion and then discover the web that I've created and where I put that fly of an idea. It's a mind map, it's a mind web. Okay.